Welcome. My name is Linda Lovisa, and I would like to welcome you to my channel. And today I am going to be demonstrating with palette knives this lovely scene from Glen Canyon. Well, as you have noticed in previous episodes, I love flowers and I love having them in my home. And this particular bouquet is just amazing. The smell is so incredible. So lilacs from my neighborhood and irises, and the tulips are from my garden. And I hope you're having a wonderful spring. And that is what inspired my painting for today. So I hike in Glen Canyon nearly every day. And in the summertime, the chicory are almost as tall as I am, if you're familiar with chicory, and the flowers are just this very special blue. So that's what I'm going to do today with palette knives. So let's get started. So what I've done is I've done a yellow tonal wash on my canvas, and I've also used my Conte chalk to sort of draw it out. Just basic shapes, nothing detailed. And I'm going to set my timer. Here we go. And let's get started now. So palette knives are like brushes, and you can see I have this beautiful assortment here. And I'm going to start off with a knife that has a little bit wider body and a nice rounded tip to load onto my canvas. So I'm going to use the ultramarine blue, and notice when I'm picking up the ultramarine blue, I'm not scooping it like a spoon. I'm pulling it towards me, and I'm going to do a beautiful deposit of ultramarine blue. Look at that. And I need a lot more of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tube and, oh, I'm using TriArt paints, by the way. They are Canadian for my Canadian audience. And by the way, TriArt is international, so they are available everywhere. And it's a really nice heavy body paint. I am palette knife painting, and it's not necessary to use a gel medium when you have a nice heavy body paint. So let's get this moved around. Look at that. Oh, isn't that beautiful? And you're probably thinking, why would you put so much of that beautiful ultramarine blue on your canvas? Well, we are using palette knives, and you want a nice consistency of paint. So let's add a little bit more, because I don't have enough paint on my palette. Imagine that. I mean, on my canvas. So let's add more paint. There we go. And let's move that around. When I get to the edge, I give my knife a nice swish on the edge, offloads, and then I'm able to move more paint. Now this background area is varied greens, so I'm also going to add cerulean blue. There we go. Notice how I picked that up. And I'm also going to bring it over here too, because the chicory is that cerulean blue when you add white to it. And I'm also going to bring in some cobalt blue. So now the thing with palette knife painting is that when you're adding various blues, or any color for that matter, to your canvas, when you add other colors to it, you're going to get a variety of colors. So now I want a variety of greens back here, so now we can start to add the yellow. I'm going to add yellow Arlide Deep first, because I want this area to be a little bit darker. And notice how I get a beautiful green immediately. And I'm moving that color around. Now, where else do I need that beautiful dark green? Now look at that color, is amazing. Don't overblend. Pick up more yellow, and I need it over here. So this is the Arlide Yellow Deep. Gorgeous color. There we go. Let's bring that down. So our path winds off into the distance here. And notice the curvature in the path, in the trail. So you want to make sure that when you're bringing in a road or a path, that you really look at where it begins, so that you have an idea for the correct perspective. Back to our background here, moving the paint around. Now there are some trees there, but I'm not going to bring those trees in yet. It's too early to cut those trees in. I'll bring those in much later. Now, moving this around. Here we go. Pull that down. Just giving those blues a blend. There we are. Now let's pick up some of the lighter yellows. Offload my knife on the edge here. So you're really not wasting any paint at all by offloading on the edge. And what I like to do is I like to run my knife along the edge too, to make sure that I've got my paint right to the edge, and here I don't. So let's move that paint up. There we go, move it up to the edge. There you go. Now let's get some lighter colors in there. So I'm going to go to so the first yellow that I used was the Arylide Yellow Deep. Now I've got Cadmium Yellow Deep, which is a brighter color than what I used earlier, but it's also going to give me a really nice green, deeper green, as I mix the yellow with the blues on my canvas. And I'm going to pull a little bit of that color over here too. And I'm thinking tree shapes. Not actually shaping trees individually, but you're visualizing it as clumps of trees, and you can see how they're starting to appear. I'm going to go right up to that cerulean blue that I deposited earlier, and on the edge, and pull. Over here, do the same thing. Now let's get some more of that yellow in here. So that's the yellow, Cadmium Yellow Deep, and let's bring that over here as well. Nice amount of paint on there, just glides. Look at that, beautiful. And notice how I'm not, making this whole area solid. I'm leaving some of the ultramarine blue showing through in various areas. There we go, and back over here. And let's get those colors in there. Now there's no sky showing in this painting because I'm on a forest path, and this particular area is quite shaded in the morning light. You can see that the sun is coming in, like the light is coming in this direction here, so it's hitting, more of the leaves in here is catching the light. So we've used the Arylide Yellow Deep, we've used the Cadmium Yellow Medium, and now I'm going to go into some of the Cadmium Yellow. Oh, that was Cadmium Yellow Deep, pardon me. Now I want the Yellow Medium. Getting all mixed up with all my yellows and blues and so on. Now, Yellow Medium, picking it up on the side. Once again, always cut your knife into it and pull up, and then you're going to get a nice load of paint. So let's deposit that. So this is Cadmium Yellow Medium with the blues that I applied onto the canvas earlier, which were ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, and cobalt blue. And you're probably wondering, why would you do different blues? Well, when they mix with your various yellows, you're going to get a variety of greens. Some people find green a very difficult color to work with, but it's, you know, it's once you start to get to know what colors mix together to make the green that you're looking for, green is easy. It's yellow and blue. And let's move that up a bit more, keeping this edge quite dark. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up manganese blue, a very, very little, and I'm going to add it right here. And then I'm going to pick up cadmium yellow light. So notice how I pulled that off. There we go. Now it's on this edge, and now I'm going to add it here. So that's going to give me a different green. I'm going to need to add more paint. It's mixing in with the blues already that I've already deposited, which is just fine. Let's pick up more paint. So cut, pull. And I'm pulling down. Now it's quite unusual for me to work in one area without adding paint in another area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down here for a minute. I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow back up in here. And I'm going to start to deposit some paint down here. So now again I'm starting with the ultramarine blue. Notice how I'm bringing that ultramarine blue in the lower part, and I'm going to add yellow medium. I'm going to add some cobalt blue on this side here. I'm going to grab another one of my knives here, and let's see, who am I going to grab next? This one right here. It's got a nice flexible end on it, and I'm going to deposit some of the earth tones. So for the earth tones, I'm going to use cadmium red light. I'm going to use the aerolite yellow deep, and I'm going to use, oh, I don't have very much ultramarine blue there, but I'm going to pick up whatever I have there and add that, and put some more ultramarine blue on my palette. There we go. And there we go, a nice amount of paint. And I also need a bit more of the cerulean blue, so let's add some of that. So now I'm just going to push that over. There we go. Let's open this. And there we go. And picking up unbleached white, and let's get that blended in there. There we go. And let's pick up some of that warm white. And I need a smaller knife, so watch what I'm going to do. So I've got my color here, so I'm just picking that color up with my smaller knife. How cool is that? And now I can get into this really narrow area here without too much trouble. Now I need more blue. So let's add the blue. Let's pull that paint from the bottom there. Pull that color in. Just do that blending, pulling it up. I'll pull down, but because it's at the very bottom of my canvas, I'm pulling upward. I'm going to add more yellow. down. And pull up. Now I know it's not looking flat, but this is just basically just to get it blended. And then I'll add my strokes, vertical strokes. There we go. Start to bring it a little closer here. Okay. Now let's see what I've got on here. Let's just take the paint off this knife here, whatever's on there, and go into the warm white and start to bring some of the light coming across that path. More paint. There we go. Very light touch. Notice how I'm doing the light areas first this time. As I add the warm white to the path, my shadows will start to appear. And bring in a little bit more back here as well. Pull that down a little bit. And pull it over. And pull up. Because there's some little grasses here that are really low, I'm just going to bring some of that up. And pull some of this white over here. And that's the warm white. There we go. I know this isn't making a whole lot of sense at the moment. Okay, let's get back to our larger knife. And I'm picking up some of the yellow light, pulling it up. Get right down to that path, leaving some of that color showing through. There we go, right to the edge. And I will need some more paint. And I'm going to pull it right up. More of the yellow. And pull up. Continue to pull up to this forest edge. Now I'm just going to offload over here because I need that color over here anyway. Catch that edge and start to bring this up. So this edge is more in shadow because our sun is coming from this direction. And I need more paint. I'm going to use yellow medium. Whoops. There we go. Pull upwards. And now I have to use a smaller knife. I'm just going to pick up from here. And I need cerulean blue. I'm going to bring the cerulean blue on this bottom edge, like so. And more cerulean blue. Notice how I cut in and pick up. Start to bring it up. And pull this right to the edge here. And let's get this looking more natural over here. There we go. Now, continue on. So there we go. Pull that up. And need to add more of the yellow medium. And I'm going to bring it right here. That's where the light is starting to show. And I'm also going to bring the yellow, I've got the medium color there, but I need that lighter yellow over here. So now I've changed the position of how I'm holding my knife. Notice how I've switched from, from side to, vertical stroke this way, but now I'm pulling this way, upward, which requires you to change the position of your hand. And now I'm going to start to pull up into this background area, which is also going to pick up some of that texture and pull it down, which is so cool. Notice how this is starting to change this whole area here. So what it does is it pulls the color from below up into the top part, and then as I'm pulling through the top part, it's picking up the darker color, which I'm pulling into the lower part, which is giving me some depth. Now I hope that you're not getting too much of a high reflection on here, because the paint is so thick on here, and I realize that it's quite highly lit. So let's just pull that up. Hopefully my arm isn't hiding too much of what I'm doing. There we go. Notice how this is starting to change. Now I need a different color in there. I need a lighter yellow again. So I'm just going to offload this knife. Let's see, I don't know what's on here. Not much. Okay, so going into my drawer here, and I need the cadmium yellow light. And here we go. Let's get some more of that on my palette. Squish that out. And there we go. Hopefully that'll be good. All right, let's get this light hitting here. Over the path. Start to bring it over the path. Now this area is starting to set, just so you know, which is a good thing, because now I can start to add some more of the yellow light up here where the light is coming through the forest and hitting this part of the trees. Now it's not completely set, as you can see, but I'm able to still work the color in, but it's floating on the top a little bit more now, which is good. I'm going to add some white to that. The warm white. There we go. Move that along, and up here too. Keep moving that around. Using very light, small stroke. Now I have to stand back for a moment. Very important. When I'm not demonstrating for you, I stand back quite frequently, about every 15 minutes or so. So when I'm demonstrating, though, it's not, it doesn't make sense to do that when trying to get, as much accomplished as possible for you. But now let's see here. Bring a little bit more of that down here. And I'm going to bring in more of the yellows in here, along that path. And over here too. It's a little bit more tan here than I like. I'm going to pick up some of that ultramarine blue and just bring a little bit more of that. The grasses by midsummer really start to change because the Okanagan Valley is such a hot spot. The smaller grasses tend to turn brown quite quickly. The chicory, I don't know if you knew this about chicory or not, but during the war, it was a coffee substitute. So chicory root was harvested and used for coffee. Light. And a little bit more over here. Now let's bring in some of those blue flowers before we stop. Just before that, I'm just going to move this over a little bit. There we go. And a little bit more over here. Now I don't know if this will offload or not. It's not that much on there, but there's enough there to deposit. Move that in. It's quite dark on that edge there. Step back for a moment. See if I've got this going the right way. Now let's bring in that shadow a little bit darker. I'm going to use the cadmium red deep with the ultramarine blue, and I'm actually going to mix it on my palette just because I need so very little and I want to make sure it's the right color, and just add some white to it on my palette and then bring it to my painting. Because you have to take notice as to what you're putting it on top of, so that you're getting the right blend. So sometimes you can just kind of bring it onto your palette, and it's very subtle, so I could probably darken it just a tad. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more blue, a little bit more red, and I don't have to go to my palette. I can do it directly on my canvas now that I know that that's the correct color combination. Let's get that shadow in. It's an important part of this lovely scene. And hopefully you're getting some beautiful weather wherever you are, wherever you're logging in from. There we go. Bring in a bit more of that shadow. There's quite a bit of white there, so it's really mixing in with that white. So I may have to wait for the next, once it's dry, and then bring that shadow in a little bit darker then. Now I want to bring some of those white flowers in, so I'm just going to pull from this side here, not white, but the light blue flowers, and I'm picking up the cerulean blue as well, so it's double loaded. knife, and I'm going to start right here. Now I'm going to do this. And over here as well. Whoops. And I'm going to pick up from here and bring over here. So now you understand why I added the cerulean blue earlier. It's still showing here and there. And again, pulling upwards. Now I'll probably give this, well, I know I will, add more of the flowers when this has had a chance to dry. But notice how I'm just kind of tapping it in. And now I'm just going to, but before I do that, I need to add a little bit more over here. So it's just a touch. Tap, 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 tap. And then now they're starting to appear. A little bit more. They're actually quite tiny, the flowers, but there are several on the stem. So they're really, really pretty. Now that needs to wait to dry before I can add those ones for sure, because it'll be just blending in and I'm not going to get the look I'm looking for. Now I want to bring in those trees back there, so I'm going to use ultramarine blue, red, deep, and the yellow are light. And I'm just going to pull up, yeah, over here. And let's bring another few more over here. And there's one over here. I need more red paint. Red and green are complements, so I'm going to get some, you know, some really nice earth tones when I do blend the two together. Pull that up and bring the suggestion of more trees back there just by pulling up and bringing in a little bit of red in there. Now, I'm going to leave it at that for now. There's so much I want to do right now, and this is such a difficult time for me to quit painting. I'm just going to pull a few branches. Like, look how you can do your trees and just pull a few branches through. You have to make sure that you have enough paint on your knife when you're pulling the color through. And look at that, the trees up here. Anyway, there's more work to do here, and I hope you enjoyed this little demonstration today, and will join me again soon. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you liked what you saw, and hit the notification button. Thanks again. Bye for now.